Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers may have lost to the White Sox, but don't despair, Dodger fans. Good times are coming ahead. This is Locked On MLB.
You are Locked On MLB. Your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the Daily Podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, there's my lower third. You can call me Sully. I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for the last decade or so, and it's my fifth season here at the Locked On Podcast Network. You can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and on Instagram. And I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Hey, big show going on today. We're going to talk a lot about the Dodgers and the NL West. We have Jeff Snider from Locked On Dodgers going to be a guest on the show later on. I want to just tell you there was an answer to the trivia question that I realized there may be a caveat there. Craig Brindle answered the question, which was, who was the last player to be the last pitcher to clinch a World Series who started the year in the minor leagues? Craig Brindle answered that it was Brad Lidge, who began the 2008 season in Clearwater, basically on an injury rehab assignment. And I realized technically he's right, but Brad Lidge was there for injury reasons, not because he was demoted to the minor leagues. The answer I was going for was Bobby Jenks. And Bobby Jenks started the 2005 season in the minor leagues for the Chicago White Sox and finished the season as a bullpen closer. But I guess you're technically right, so I'm going to let it be. Hey, crazy games going on in baseball. The Cardinals are now, once again, the worst team in the National League as they lost the game to San Francisco, where Mike Yastrzemski hit a two-run home run with 2 outs in the ninth inning to tie the game. Giants rallied late, and the Cardinals are just in an absolute nosedive, and the Royals are worse. In fact, the Royals are now the worst team in baseball in terms of percentage points. The A's winning streak came to a close as they lost to Tampa Bay. Maybe order is being restored to the universe, and it looks like they're going to get the funding for their stadium in Las Vegas. Sad, sad times there. But the A's are now percentage points ahead of Kansas City, who have dropped their last 9 games and have almost single-handedly brought the Reds back into a playoff picture. Okay. And the Cardinals, and they lost. You remember in the early to mid 2010s, 2011, the Cardinals are in the World Series. 2013, the Cardinals are in the World Series. And then you had 2014, the Royals were in the World Series. 2015, the Royals were in the World Series. It was a great time to be a Missouri baseball fan. Well, now it stinks. The Royals and the Cardinals are the worst teams in their respective divisions. And I don't know what's going to happen with St. Louis. We're going to have a St. Louis themed show coming up later this week. JD's going to be a guest on the show. But wow, bad times going on in the state of Missouri. Let's just do a quick Who Owned Baseball. Jose Barrios took a no-hitter deep into the game. He allowed 3 hits in 7 2/3 innings as the Blue Jays topped the very good Baltimore Orioles 3-1. Jake Berger homered twice to help the White Sox top the Dodgers 8-4. Michael Harris II went 4 for 4 in the first game of a doubleheader sweep by Atlanta over Detroit. Ranger Suarez, am I pronouncing his first name right? Didn't allow a run for 7 innings, setting up the Phillies' 4-3 victory over Arizona. Lots of old-timers get half wobs. Garrett Cole's not an old-timer. He pitched very well, actually. He struck out 8 in 6 innings, and the Yankees played well, but Nimmo walked it off in extra innings, 4-3. And then comes the three old timers. Miguel Cabrera, remember him? He got 3 hits in the Tigers' first game of their doubleheader sweep by Atlanta. Carlos Santana homered and singled in the Pirates' 10-6 loss to the Cubbies. And there is Clayton Kershaw, one of the great Dodgers of all time, arguably the greatest Los Angeles Dodger of all time. He pitched well. He let up 2 runs in 6 innings, but the Dodgers were doubled up by the White Sox 8-4. The Dodgers are still a very good team this year, even though they are in second place. When we come back from this break, Jeff Snider of Locked On Dodgers is joining the show, as I mentioned before, and we're talking a little bit about their rotation issues, the addition of some young farmhands, and the types of moves they may have to do looking forward, and talk about their great competition, which happens to be the Arizona Diamondbacks. Hey, as promised, that's Jeff Snider of Locked On Dodgers. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Paul. Wait, can I call you Sully?
You can call me whatever you want. Hey, I
You
got to
know
tell you
I
something.
do.
I can only see you from the waist up, but you look really comfortable. I bet from the waist down, you're feeling very comfortable right now.
Oh, but especially when I'm wearing Birddogs. And the best part is I can feel comfortable and look nice because Birddogs are made to feel like you're wearing gym shorts, but look like you got all dressed up and actually put some thought into what you're wearing. They are, not quite fancy, but they look great. And everybody who wears Birddogs, I'll give you an example. My son, my daughter graduated from high school a week or two ago. And we told my son, 16 years old, that he needed to kind of dress up to go to the graduation. And he put on a polo shirt and his Birddog shorts. And let me tell you, he looked awesome. It looked like he was dressed up. And yet he was comfortable the whole time because they feel like gym shorts. They're stretchy everywhere you want to be. They're slim fitting and they look really, really nice. So if you haven't tried Birddogs yet, I'm telling you, you got to try it. And if you go to birddogs.com/lockedonmlb and you enter promo code lockedonmlb, you will get a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedonmlb for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you.
Well, we are now bird dogging it with Jeff Snider of Locked On Dodgers. Going into this year, we knew that the Dodgers were going to have heavy competition from within their division. We knew that while I think everyone in the world thought the Dodgers were going to be a quality team, this was not going to be a clear run to the division, and everyone knew it was going to be a dogfight back and forth. Nobody thought it was going to be with the Diamondbacks, not even Millard Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks, who I thought the Diamondbacks were going to be better, and I thought they were going to be a fringe wildcard contender because they have good pitching. But I didn't expect them, as we're recording this on the 14th of June, to be having the best record in the National League right now.
Yeah, when we did our NL West preview, you and Millard and I all agreed that the D-backs were going to have a good season and they were going to finish third in the division. And the pushback we got was from Ben from Locked On Giants about whether the Giants or the D-backs would finish third. And, there was part of me that wanted to pick the D-backs to finish second, but that was mostly to annoy Javi.
Right.
But I did expect the D-backs to be good.
Yeah.
Like you said, nobody expected them to be this good. And I'm still interested to see how they can hold up because they're a young team and it's a long season. And so, I wouldn't say it's easy to do what they've done, but it's easier to do what they've done so far than to do it for a full 162.
What I will say in response to that, and while I agree with you, I thought this was going to be a fringe wildcard contender team. I thought they were going to be a mid-80 win team. I liked their pitching going into the season. And I thought if some of the young bats clicked, then they would have decent pitching, decent hitting, which when you Reese's peanut butter cup that together, you wind up having a winning season. You and I said the exact same thing about it being a long season. Let's see how it pans out about the 2021 San Francisco Giants. Now, granted, LA beat the Giants in the division series on a check swing thrown by Max Scherzer, But the Dodgers they were both excellent teams. Obviously, the Dodgers won, was it 106 games, and the
Yeah.
Giants won 107 or whatever it was. They both won a lot, and the Dodgers were very, very good. Obviously, um, I thought, and again, I was rooting for the Giants because of my dad, but I was stunned that the Giants were able to pull it off over 162 games. And I like this Diamondbacks team better than I like that Giants team in terms of the
Yeah,
talent they have on it.
I agree with you on that. But we remember the outliers. There's probably 30 other teams that
Mhm.
we've said this about in the last decade. Well, we'll see if they can hold up over the course of a full season, and they didn't. And so we
Right.
even forget which teams they were. And so yeah,
Hmm.
we remember that the Giants were able to. And I'm not even saying the D-backs won't. I'm saying there's so much, like, they haven't really dealt with any huge injury issues so far this year.
Hmm.
Everybody's been pretty much healthy. No team's entirely healthy, but then pretty healthy. Uh, they haven't dealt with a lot of adversity, and so when that adversity comes, and it almost always does, I'm interested to see how they react to it. And if they can find you can do a lot on emotion, and
Well,
and on youthful exuberance, but it's hard to maintain that for a full season.
and you being a lifelong Dodger fan, I'm sure part of you is happy to see that one of the things that helped the Diamondbacks really have a tremendous last month or so was DFAing Madison Bumgarner. Was basically
Hey,
saying, you know what, and again, Madison Bumgarner gave my father a lot of happiness, so I cannot trash him, but that has to be one of the most disastrous free agent signings in recent memories. That he has just been. I mean, I'm startled to see he went from being the our answer to Bob Gibson in the postseason to having a team literally say, we will pay you to not play for us.
Yeah, and the D-backs deserve a lot of credit for making that decision, because it's not like they cut him loose like last year. The Cubs cut Jason Hayward loose in the same situation. The Cubs are now paying Jason Hayward to play for the Dodgers. It's that
Hmm.
same situation. To cut a guy loose with over a year left on his deal.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, when you look at the team, the D-backs decided we want to be contenders this year, and Madison Bumgarner makes us a worse team, and so we got to pay him either way. We'd rather pay him to not pitch for us than to pitch for us.
Right, right. Well, okay, let's get back to you. Were talking. Let's get back up to the Dodgers. I talk enough about the Diamondbacks with Millard on the show every week. Um, the the Dodgers are having a good year. I mean, this is not like just because the D-backs aren't in first place because this isn't a St. Louis Cardinals situation where the Pirates are in first because the Cardinals are god awful this year. Dodgers are still a good team, especially when you consider the rash of injuries that they've had. Now, to be fair, one of the positive things that's happened to the team this year is Kershaw's having another good year. I mean, it's not gonna make anyone forget 2014, but he's having a good year. He's had a couple of vintage Clayton Kershaw games this year.
Yeah, Kershaw's been really good. He was amazing in April, struggled in May, and now he's been good again so far in June. Pitches. When's this one airing? This
Oh,
episode?
this is gonna be either airing on the 14th or the 15th.
Oh, okay. So he's pitching tonight. We're recording on the 14th. I'm heading out to Dodger Stadium here pretty soon after we're done recording to watch Kershaw pitch. Yeah, and he's been very, very good. Uh, and the crazy thing is, he's been the only Dodger starter who's been healthy all year.
Yeah, yeah.
And you wouldn't have put money on that being Kershaw's role on this day. Hey, he's going to be the healthy one, because
Right.
Kershaw, the last 6-7 years, he's been great when he's been on the mound. He just hasn't been healthy very often, and
Right.
hasn't pitched a full season in a long time. And he probably won't again this year. He'll probably have something come up, but
Mhm.
the fact is, he's put himself in position to have a very realistic shot at getting to 3,000 strikeouts for his career this year, which didn't really look likely at the start of the season. And he's been their most consistent starter, both in terms of health and performance. And yeah, he's really held things together, because, like you said, the Dodgers pitching staff has been a little bit of a mess between ineffectiveness and injury.
I will say I went to a Dodger game on Mother's Day, and I believe that's when Tony Gonsolin pitched, and he was pitching against San Diego, and that's when the Dodgers finished the sweep of the Padres. And there were a lot of Padre fans there who looked shell shocked. Like, what's going on? Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Are we bad? Wait, are we bad? And but Gonsolin was pitching like an ace that day, and he's had a couple of games recently where he's been really terrific.
Yeah, Gonsolin's got a 193 ERA, so obviously he's been very, very good. He did miss the first month or so, maybe a little over a month of the season. A freak sprained ankle in spring training delayed the start to the season. And after missing most of the last month of last season because of an injury,
Hmm.
it was, there were questions like, okay, can we count on this guy? But, I said on Locked On Dodgers this morning, like, when he's on the mound, he's awesome. He's now
Yeah.
30-7 in his career with an ERA in the low twos. It's like, it's when he's pitching, he's awesome. And he doesn't have overpowering stuff, but he's got secondary pitches that make his fastball play up, and he pitches really, really well, commands him well. That was the big knock on him early in his career, was that he wasn't throwing enough strikes, so he couldn't go deep in games. And he's gotten a lot better at that. Last night he 6 innings on 90 pitches. Obviously they could have run him out there for a 7th inning if they'd wanted to, but they had a decent lead. They didn't. And so, he has been very, very good when he's been on the mound, and hopefully he can stay healthy because he's a key part of this rotation. And honestly, a rotation heading into the postseason headed up by Kershaw and Gonsolin, that's a pretty good starting point, especially when you think about the guy you're probably going to bring up next.
All right. Well, I will bring him up in just a second. I do want to just go through. There's Bueller hasn't pitched this year yet,
No.
right? Is he going to pitch at all this year?
He might. I'm not counting on him for anything. I'm definitely not counting on him as a starter. I could picture
Right.
him coming back in September and being built up enough to actually be a force out of the bullpen in the postseason.
Yeah.
Definitely not thinking about him as a starter this year. I think
Okay.
he is, but I'm not.
Okay. Well, let's put Bueller aside. Whatever. Basically, either he'll be what Lincecum was to the 2012 Giants when they used him out of the pen, or anything you get out of him will be a bonus. And by the way, when Bumgarner won the 2016 wild card game, throwing a complete game shutout against the New York Mets, he was matched 0 for 0 by Noah Syndergaard, who I wonder if the the Dodgers should send on a similar fate that the Diamondbacks did with Madison Bumgarner.
Well, they basically did. They put him on the injured list and said, "Hey, how's that finger?" No, it's not. No, it's hurt. Go away. And he's only signed for 1 year. There's no real point as long as he's off the roster,
Yeah.
the active roster. There's no real point unless they end up needing that 40-man roster spot, and even then they could 60-day IL him. So I don't think they'll jettison him necessarily. I do
Okay.
think he's probably thrown his last pitch in a Dodger uniform, though.
Yeah, he's not been very good. I mean, again, may we all have his career. But you like Dustin May, who got off to a good start. Is he out for the year, or is he coming back?
He's not out for the year yet. We don't really have any idea because
Hmm.
we know that his arm injury wasn't a recurrence that's going to need another Tommy John, but we also know he is coming back from Tommy John. They're going to be careful with him, and you never really know. I mean, Ryan Pepio was supposed to be in the starting rotation. He had an oblique injury, and they say he's still weeks away from even picking up a baseball. And so you never know how long these injuries are going to take. And so Dustin May, I have him in basically the same camp as I have Bueller. Of anything we get from him will be a bonus, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him pitching out of the bullpen in October.
And then Urias, who is on the 15-day injured list, he's coming back, right?
He is. He was actually supposed to pitch this last Sunday, but then
That's what I
in his last bullpen session leading up to that, he felt something in his hamstring again, which is why he's on the injured list. And so they, abundance of caution, all of that, they shut him down again because I do think the Dodgers are kind of taking the long view on this and saying, you know what, we need Julio in October. We need him healthy and fresh. And so they're not going to rush him back, even though the pitching staff is in shambles right now. They're taking the long view, and I think that's the right approach. But yeah, Julio will hopefully be back in the next couple weeks.
We're here with Jeff Snider of Locked On Dodgers. A couple of episodes ago here on Locked On MLB, I was praising Bobby Miller. And every year when a team is a championship caliber team, or at least a playoff caliber team, there's always a contribution from somebody you are totally not expecting, someone who wasn't really on the radar to contribute for that year. And so far, Bobby Miller has been the player, at least for me. I know I don't follow the team as closely as you do, but when you look at Syndergaard, Urias, Walker Bueller, Dustin May, all on the injured list at the same time, in comes Bobby Miller, who in his first 4 starts has pitched about as well as you could ask anybody to pitch, and has fit right in. He's only let up 2 runs in his first 4 starts combined, and is striking out, has a strikeout per inning only, and has a great strikeout to walk ratio, great ERA. They've been winning his games, and he has been exactly literally what the doctor has ordered with this Dodger team.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I do think we Dodger fans were expecting him this year and expecting him to be really good. We were a little bit surprised that he never got a call up last year, because he's been a top prospect. He throws 100 miles an hour. They drafted him in 2020 during COVID, and they sent him straight to the alternate site. And so he got immediate interactions with big leaguers and top minor leaguers at the alternate site, and then pitched well in 2021, pitched well last year. And so we definitely knew Bobby Miller was coming at some point this year. And we knew it was going to come down to, okay, when are they going to need him because of injuries? Because they had a full staff coming into the season, but we knew, okay, guys get hurt, guys are ineffective. Bobby Miller's going to get his shot. And we didn't necessarily expect it to be quite as early in the season as it ended up being. And we hoped he would be as good as he's been, but obviously none of us would have, with a straight face, predicted 2 runs in his first 4 starts and going 6 innings in 3 of the 4 starts, and just he's been dominant. But he's got 4 pitches. One of them was a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and Baseball Prospectus said last offseason that his 100-mile-an-hour fastball might be his 4th best pitch. And I think they were probably wrong about that. But I do think he's got some secondary stuff that is really, really good. And so he's got 3 elite pitches and 1 solid pitch. And it's almost hard to not be successful when you have the stuff that Bobby Miller has.
Here's one reason why, again, I have good feelings about LA if they get, when they get to October, if a couple things are in their favor. You got Kershaw and Gonsolin. If you have Urias back and Bobby Miller's pitching reasonably well, 1, 2, 3, 4 in your starting rotation right there. If you have the Buellers and the Gratterols and the, who else? You got Victor Gonzalez. You got
Evan Phillips.
Caleb Ferguson. If you have a bunch of those, you don't need to make a big honking giant mega trade for the pitching depth that you need. Now, Lindsay of Locked On MLB Prospects and I were saying that the Dodgers might be, if Cleveland is indeed going to put Bieber on the trade block, LA has the pieces to pull off a deal like that and not totally destroy their farm system. If you add a Bieber to this rotation and everyone else moves a step down, suddenly this looks like absolutely the team to beat. Would you be in favor of the Dodgers trying to make the big splash move, or to make the find if there's another Shelby Miller out there and tinker it like as we're doing it in eBay Motors read?
I am in favor of both. I do think the Dodgers are going to look at the big splash. I'm not sure that not Justin Bieber, what's his name? Shane Bieber is
very different person.
I'm not sure that he is the splash move. I'm not sold on Bieber right now. With looking at his underlying numbers and stuff, I'm a little bit concerned about him. But if Corbin Burns becomes available, if Shohei Ohtani becomes available, I expect, if there is a splash to be made, I expect the Dodgers to be in on being the team to make that splash, because they do have a loaded farm system. What you laughing about, Sully?
I'm laughing about the idea of the Ohtani trade happening. That just to me is, oh man, that just would be just fold the then just move the Angels to Vegas. Just have everyone just go to Vegas. That'd be the punishment. Or have them go to Oakland. Just it'd be just a disaster.
Angels and A's could share the stadium in Vegas.
I'm taking a look at their lineup as a native New Englander and a lifelong Red Sox fan. I just shake my head and say, why can't the Red Sox find players like Mookie Betts and JD Martinez?
It's hard.
It's really hard. You got to look.
Yeah.
Boy, JD Martinez, talk about a move that was relatively under the radar that has really paid dividends in the power department, certainly in the OPS department. He had a home run when I went to a game. Both JD and Mookie Betts hit homers in the games that I went to this year, which was really, it's basically like you wanted to win the 2018 World Series, and now you're bringing the people who won it. It's absolutely surreal. But what do you think about their lineup, and what do you think they need to do moving forward to patch up what needs to be done there?
Offensively, they've been really, really good. And it's not a perfect lineup. James Outman had a great first month. He's been struggling lately. They have Miguel Rojas has been basically a black hole of offense at shortstop and playing good defense, but to the point where they do have Mookie Betts playing shortstop sometimes, Chris Taylor playing shortstop sometimes. When they acquired Miguel Rojas, they expected Gavin Lux to be the starting shortstop, and then he got hurt during spring training. And so that has definitely hurt them. But overall, they're right at the top of the league in runs scored. The offense has held things together while this pitching has really, really struggled. And so it's, I think they'll look for ways to improve, but there's not any super obvious ways. Because you mentioned JD Martinez has been great, even better than they could have hoped for. Jason Hayward has been very, very good. David Peralta the last month and a half has been awesome. Yeah. And, so they have guys who are hitting. I think for the Dodgers a lot offensively as the season goes on, it's going to be more about making those hard decisions about, okay, how long a leash do we give James Outman? And I think as long as they're scoring 5, 6, 7, 8 runs a game, they're going to keep giving Outman leash because Outman has a ton of talent. And so if he can recapture what he had in April, they're a better team. And so I think they're going to give him as many opportunities as they can. Rojas even has shown signs. He's hit the ball hard at times. He's not striking out much. So he's got a BABIP. I don't know exactly what it is right now, but I think it's, well under 200. And that's probably not sustainable. He's probably just by his luck evening out, he's going to hit better. He's not going to be a great hitter, but he's going to hit better. And so, it's going to be interesting because last year they had the luxury of, we are running away with the division. We don't really we can give guys as much time as they need to figure things out. And this year they are going to be pushed in the division. And so as long as the top four, you got Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Will Smith and JD Martinez, all four of them have OPSs of around 900 or better.
Yeah.
As long as they keep hitting, the offense is going to be fine, and they can let other guys try to figure it out. But that's not necessarily a guarantee. Those guys are going to slump too.
Well, and the other thing is that it allows you to have someone like a Max Muncy who is hitting a ton of home runs. He's not having a good year across the board offensively, but some of the players are having such a great year that you could almost afford to have Max be that lower in the lineup, and if he gets a hold of one, great. If not, we got Mookie and Freddie are coming up. Freddie Freeman. We all knew Freddie Freeman was a wonderful player when he was with Atlanta. Obviously, we know that. But holy Toledo, this has been 2 years into this signing. This has been paying dividends. Right now, as of this recording, he leads the league in total bases, has an OPS that's approaching 1,000, and he is doing everything offensively that you could ask for him at this point.
Yeah, Freddie's ridiculous. Yeah, and like you said, and maybe Braves fans knew all along. Maybe this is who Freddie's always been. But I feel like he's taken a step forward since coming to the Dodgers and being like, okay, I was a great hitter. Now I'm just kind of the best hitter. And it's, finishing second in the MVP voting in his first year back, or fourth in the MVP voting, second best hitter in the league last year. Machado and Arenado stuck ahead of him in the MVP voting because they provide more defensive value. But as far as hitting goes, Freddie there's not many guys yeah, you would not many guys you'd rather have at the plate when you need something good to happen than Freddie Freeman.
Right now, I mean, if I had to pick an MVP right now, and for what I understand, these two didn't necessarily like each other, it would be either Acuna or Freddie Freeman. But he comes in. I don't know. Maybe for him, he arrived. He has a World Series ring on his finger. If he ever goes to the Hall of Fame, he knows he's going to have his number retired in Atlanta. He's back home in California. Has so much money, his great grandchildren can go to law school. Maybe part of him is sort of, hey, maybe I'll just be a multimillionaire in LA.
Yeah, it's whatever it is. He seems happy, and that wasn't necessarily the case the first month or so that he was with the Dodgers. Obviously, he was happy where he was, but there was still some of that lingering sadness about leaving Atlanta. I think he's moved past that, and he is just, he and Mookie Betts have become best friends. It's kind of funny. Last year they became best friends, and then the Dodgers went out and got both of their actual best friends. They brought in Jason Hayward and JD Martinez. It's like, hey guys, let's increase the circle of best friendage. And that is a pretty darn productive circle of best friendage.
And let me just say one last thing: with all the injuries they've had and the ups and downs of some of the people who've been inconsistent in the lineup and the decimation of some of their aces, they're still on pace to win like 91, 92 games as of now. This is still a team that's very good, even with all that strife.
Yeah, that's with them playing really, really poorly the last week and a half. They're still on pace for 90-something wins. And that was kind of my point when we were talking about the D-backs. The D-backs, everything is kind of gone. They're playing – I feel like they're playing at their peak right now. And the Dodgers are playing well below what they're capable of. It doesn't mean the Dodgers will get to what they're capable of, but I do think talent-wise – I would still, I think if I was an impartial observer, I don't know what that would be like, but I think I would still expect the Dodgers to win this division because they have a ton of talent and are really, really good. And even the guys who haven't performed well, most of them you would expect to get better.
Okay, just the last thing. I'm going to go here. I have my computer, my trusty calculator out here. The D-backs, as of this recording, are playing to a 612 winning percentage, which means they'd be on pace to win 99 games. Okay? If they finish the season with 87 wins, a winning season, and being one of the wild card teams, every single Diamondback fan in the world would have taken that. In other words, if they continue to play and fall 12 games off the pace that they're currently playing, it would still shatter everyone's expectations. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, things tend to even out the way we're expecting to. The 2021 Giants, of course, being an outlier, because that team was weird because every ball dumped in. They were not a 107-win team, and the next year they went even 81-81. I said they're better than 500, but they're not a 107-win. They're probably like an 88-win team that all the balls just happen to drop and fall in 2021, and they were caught in 2022. Almost the same level quality team.
Yeah, but the wins that the D-backs have already won, they count, and they've banked those. I think right now, if they ended up winning 87 games, most D-backs fans would be disappointed because of where we're at right now. I think if you could tell them from 6 months ago they were going to win 87 games and make the postseason, they'd be thrilled. But I think their expectations have been raised, and I do think 87 is unlikely. I think the D-backs are going to win 90-something games this year just because of where they're starting from. They have this head start now. And so even if they played 500 right now, what are they? They're 15 games over 500 right now. So if they played 500 the rest of the season, that's 80, 88, 89 wins, and so chances are they're going to win 90-something games. And if they win 99, they probably win the division because the Dodgers are probably going to be 95, 96 wins somewhere in that ballpark. And so, yeah, the D-backs have a chance, but I do think, it's probably Dodgers win the division with 96 wins and the D-backs or the Dodgers win with 96 wins and the D-backs finish in second with like 93 wins or something like that.
All right. Now before we end today, we got to do a trivia question. Now you don't answer, Jeff. This is or you can answer it off the air, but, first person to send me the correct answer at Sully Baseball on Twitter or in the comments below here on YouTube or on Instagram or wherever you'll get a shout out in the next show. And that's to do with Hall of Famer Jim Thome. Hall of Famer Jim Thome played for 22 seasons. He played for Cleveland, for the Phillies, for the White Sox, for the Twins, for the Dodgers, and for the Orioles. And of those 6 teams, he played in the postseason with all of those teams except one, who is the only team that Jim Thome played for that he didn't play in the postseason with. Cleveland, Philadelphia, White Sox, Minnesota, Dodgers, and Baltimore. Send me the answer at Sully Baseball or here on, or wherever you know where to get me, Sully Baseball on Twitter, Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, on Instagram, or down here in the YouTube page. Jeff Snider, where can people follow your show?
So it's Locked On Dodgers. You can get it wherever you get podcasts. You can get it on YouTube. You can get it on the Sirius XM, the SXM app. Search for Locked On Dodgers. And you can get me over on Twitter at Snydog. And don't tweet me the answer to the trivia question, though, because I'm not shouting you out.
All right, now we're talking. And hey, thanks so much for listening. He is Jeff Snider. He is the great host of Locked On Dodgers. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan. I'm the host of this show, and you can call me Sully.